But she didn't. She made the decision to stay in the relationship. Fast forward now to she's coming up on her graduation from the academy. And this is when now I realize that nothing has really changed between us. You know, there's still a huge gulf. She's going to go have a graduation party to celebrate her impending graduation from the academy. And she comes home with a friend and she tells me she's going to the party. She doesn't say, let's go to the party. I'm excluded. This is me going to a party, and I don't care what you do. Behind my back, she had told the babysitter that she wanted the babysitter to work an extra day so that she could go and have a good time and not have to worry about taking care of the baby. I wasn't aware of that. Okay, so as she was leaving, I asked her how long she was going to be. She said about an hour, kind of like very, nonchalantly. And she leaves. Time passes and she's not calling me. She's not back. We didn't have cell phones back then, so go figure. And I'm sitting in the home and I'm thinking to myself, well, she usually takes a babysitter home, and the babysitter's still here. She needs to go home. This is a Friday. So I tell the babysitter, look, I don't know what's going on with my wife, but get ready and I'll take you home. Just make sure you get the baby ready for bed, so when I come back, all I got to do is, put him to sleep. She goes up to take care of the baby or whatever she's going to do, and she's not coming down. I'm sitting in the living room wondering what the hell is going on with her. So I insist. I call her. I say, what's up? What's taking you so long? Let's go. She reluctantly comes down, and she could have told me right there and then, listen, Pablo, look, the truth of the matter is your wife paid me already to work an extra day. So chill. You want to go out? Go. I got it. Whatever it is that you want to do, don't worry about it. But she doesn't. She gets in the car with me, and as I'm driving her home, I'm asking her, I'm telling her, I don't understand what's going on with my wife. Why is she acting like that? And she doesn't make any comments to tell me that she knows what's going on, or that she has some kind of information that will help me understand where the relationship is. Now, they're relatives, so they talk.
Yeah.
She must know. This lady came to work for us at the bequest of her mom. It's like I'm having a spy in my own house. Anyway, all that became evident later at the trial. I didn't know anything about that at that time. But moving forward, I drop the babysitter off. I come back home. I put the baby to bed. I'm sitting in the living room. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on. I'm doing the math. What's up with this? She comes in and she parks the vehicle in the garage, and she comes into the house. And as soon as she walks in, man, I'm thinking to myself, man, she is dead drunk. How in the hell did she manage to drive all the way back and park the car and not hit anything? So as I'm sitting on this couch, just imagine the same thing in my home. She walks right past me and she doesn't say anything. And she goes into the bedroom. And I'm thinking to myself, of course, in retrospect, bad decision, bad moment. But I'm thinking, we need to have a conversation, man. This is too much. I need to know where we're at in this relationship. Is there a future? Do we need to break up? Is there a divorce in the future? What the hell is going on? And I began to verbally abuse her and accost her, trying to get answers to my questions. She, of course, is saying, leave me alone. I want to go to bed, etc., etc. And then because I kept bullying her and pressuring her, exasperated, totally disgusted with the way we were living and not understanding how we were, how we were going to get out of this situation, she decides that she's going to call the police. Now, At that point in time, I'm thinking to myself, hell no, you can't call the police again. You call the police now, that's it, I'm done. It's over. There's no second chances. They already gave me a second chance. So I keep her from calling the cops. And eventually, she wants to leave. I don't want her to leave. I'm thinking, you're not in a state to go out on the streets anyway. My son is still sleeping upstairs, man. Thank God for that. So eventually, she decides that she's going to come after me physically. And when she takes that step, I lose it, man. I'm thinking, now you're going to fight with me. You think you can fight with me? So I get into it with her. And she's hurt. Phone rings. Is her friend, the friend that came to the house with her prior to her leaving to the party. And she wants to talk to her. I said, nah, she ain't ready to talk to you right now. She's having a conversation with me. Or words to that effect. I hang up, and the phone call kind of helped me realize, or woke me up, so to speak, that, man, what the hell are you doing? You know, you're going off the deep end here. You need to check yourself and get the hell out of here. So I started to leave. But I see her graduation invitations there and the dresser, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm tear this thing up, man. You ain't going to no graduation. Today was your graduation party. While I was doing that, she goes and she gets my service revolver. And she pulls it out of the holster and turns around. When I turn around and I look at her, she's aiming the gun at me. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, she's going to shoot me. Now, that's what came to my mind. I could have just as easily turned around and ran or walked out or done whatever. But what I do, the worst thing that I could have done, is I go and I charge her and I try to get the gun from her. Needless to say, sir, in that whole transaction, she ends up getting shot. Dead. Done. Over. That gun goes off. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What the hell just happened here? I plug the phones in, call 911, and I tell them what happened. I identify myself. I say, I need help. I need help right now. Well, they took their time getting there. When I finally left I called twice. When I finally left the unit to go see where they were at, because I'm thinking to myself, maybe they're having a tough time finding the house. There are officers all over the complex, guns drawn. I don't know who they were looking for. I run up to one of them and I said, look, man, go ahead, man, just shoot me. Shoot me right now. Shoot me, man. Go ahead and put me. That's it. I'm done, man. There's no way. Just, no, what they do, they put handcuffs on me and they take me and they put me in the back of a patrol car. While I'm sitting there, I tell them that my son is still in the upstairs bedroom sleeping, and could they call this person that I knew to come and get the boy, so that they wouldn't turn the boy over to Child Protective Services, you know. So that's how this came about. Now, I'm going to pause right there and let you ask your questions, but abuser, domestic violence, these terms I did not hear apply to me until I was sitting in that courtroom and I realized that this is how the prosecutor now is building his case to get me convicted of first-degree murder. But up until that time, I'm thinking, I'm a good guy. I'm a hard-working man. I have respect for women, whatever. In other words, I didn't see myself as being no abuser or someone that didn't have any respect for women or anything like that. I'm just a hard-working man trying to make it just like everybody else. But that's, in a nutshell, the story right there. that led me to 30 years of incarceration.
So with the 30 years, was that what they sentenced you a
They
trial?
gave me second-degree murder, but they gave me that second-degree murder is 15 years to life, plus they gave me 2 years for the gun.
Man, that's serious, man. I mean, you know, dealing with a situation like that, I mean, I can't begin to imagine or put myself in your shoes. I mean, it's so hard for anybody to try to, you know, try to say how they would deal with that situation. I mean, you have a child involved and you're talking about a relationship and then certain other elements. You know, so in one case you say, hey, I could walk away and then try to deal with the child situation afterwards, or am I going to stay and try to make it work, and how's that going to play out? So I know, you know, it's been a lot of situations where people have tried to work things out and then it escalates, or, you know, people become estranged, or, you know, if you have a family member, maybe sometimes they can come in and try to help the situation. But
well, I think you've summarized it perfectly, man. That's exactly the dilemma, and I just didn't have the answers.
how old were you at the time?
She was like 21, 22. I was like 29.
Yeah.
29, maybe 28, 29, yeah.
So while you're sitting there and you're dealing with this situation, you know, at trial and then, you know, post conviction, I mean, what was going through your mind? I mean, you know you have to now do this time, and then you have your son out there, and you're trying to, you know, have your mind in the right state to move forward. I mean, what was that like?
Jesus, Marcus, listen, man. Let me just say to you that the immediate 48, 72 hours, the only thing that I could think of was to kill myself. I could not sleep. I could not think. I'm sorry, man. I could not process anything.
Yeah.
I felt so alone.
Yeah.
So alone, man. Like I had fell off the face of the earth. I had not a friend in the world that wanted to talk to me. The department put out a memo saying, "Don't none of you ever get caught talking to that man."
Oh man.
I was broke. I didn't have any money to hire a lawyer. You know, to their credit, my neighbors, man, people that lived with me, that could not believe what the hell had happened, man. They put up their property deeds to bail me out, man. And I was like, wow, man. But I was clueless, man. I was so messed up in the head. I didn't want to live, man. Just trying to think about that, Marcus. You do something like that, man. You take somebody's life, somebody that you're supposed to be taking care of, protecting. How do you explain that, man? How do you explain what you just did, man? And then nobody wants to hear it. You know, the media picks up on the story. They roll with it. You're being vilified. You're a monster. I mean, you hear people that you didn't know knew you doing interviews and talking about you. You're watching this thing. You're in this cell, suicide prevention, and you're looking at this this thing is playing over and over, man. They're talking about you. This isn't because you did a movie or you cut a record. They want your destruction, man.
Yeah.
They want you annihilated. And so yeah, initially the only thought on my mind was the only way to shut down your thoughts, Pablo, is you got to find a way to take yourself out. You can't do this. But time, man. Time is a son of a gun, man. With time, everything starts to settle down. You know, when people find themselves embroiled in scandal, they run away and they hide for a little while because they know 6 months, 12 months down the line, everybody's going to forget about it. and they can come back and take a peek, and it's okay. They can walk around again. Well, I bailed out, and of course I was a vegetable. I couldn't think for myself. I couldn't do anything. And the one thing that kept me going, man, is that I regained custody of my boy, and now I had to focus on being a parent. They put me through some hoops for that. I had to go to parenting class and all that. And having that little boy with me, man, helped me to make it through the tough days. And, eventually, I got a lawyer, and we started with the whole business of the prosecution of the case. And I was in bad shape. I had 2 trials. The first trial ended in a hung jury, not because of anything that I did, more because of the character of the jurors. I didn't do anything to try to help myself. I was feeling guilty, feeling bad, feeling despicable, feeling like I didn't deserve to live, that whatever happened to me was cool. But, you would understand this because you know the system. The first trial had I think it was racially divided. And I dare say that all the African Americans in the jury felt like the situation fell more into a manslaughter type thing, even involuntary manslaughter, where there was a homicide, but it didn't rise to the level of intentional or malicious. Just an unfortunate situation, which is the way I've always characterized it, because as God is my witness, my intention wasn't to kill anybody, murder anybody. My intention was to find answers, and things just kept getting out of control, and I just kept making bad decisions over and over and over until it culminated in tragedy. But after the mistrial was declared, I turned around and I found myself in court again 3-4 weeks later. Different judge, different jury. This time the prosecutor made sure that he had 12 white people on the jury. Sir, the first trial lasted 2 weeks. The second trial lasted 2 days. The second judge threw out all the motions that were granted in the first trial, and he basically said to my lawyer, I don't want to hear from anybody else except him. I want him to get on the witness stand and explain to the jury and to the world why he did what he did. And I did testify at my first trial, but I was in a different frame of mind. At the second trial, I had grown to have deep animosity towards the prosecutor, because I felt like he was adding elements into the whole affair that weren't really necessarily true, but that were just designed to get a particular result. And so I got on the witness stand on the second trial, and I just went after him with total disrespect, man. And you know that there's nothing good that can come from that.
Yeah.
And he baited me. And he led me down that path, knowing exactly what he was doing. Got me out of character, got me pissed off and angry. And he was just kind of smiling internally, probably. Yeah, I got you. That's what I want the jury to see.
That emotional side.
Yeah. That you're an animal. You live in your own little world. Think that you know all the answers. Everybody's wrong except you. And yeah, when he started to wrap it up, I realized what he'd done. He said, you guys saw him on the witness stand. You see how he acted. You see how he spoke to me. Imagine if he spoke to me out here in public like that. Just think, what was it like for his wife when he was in that house and nobody was there to watch him? I knew I was cooked. I left the courtroom, walked to the parking lot, got in the car, drove to my condo. And as soon as I was pulling into the garage, my mom said, son, they called you. They want you back in court. I was like, wow. So I took off all my stuff. I took a moment to say goodbye to my mom, to my son. I just knew, Marcus, you're going back to court. You ain't coming back.
Yeah.
That was it. It took that jury longer to select who was going to be the foreman than it was to cast a vote whether or not I was guilty or not of second-degree murder.
Mm.
Yes, sir.
So that was the last time you saw the streets after that, right?
Never saw it again.
Yeah.
Until just recently.
So during that time, I mean, was there anybody you had as far as connection on the streets? Was it just your mom? Did she?
No. All that disappeared, man. The only person that never turned their back at me during this entire thing was my mom. Yes, sir. That's why today, Marcus, as I sit here, man, and I look you in the eyes, man, I don't have many friends.
Yeah.
I don't hang out with people. I'm married again. Thank God. God put a good woman in my life this time, man. And I'm happy to say that we're making it work, man. But I have a lot more tools in my bag now.
Yeah.
And I know about the power of words, how to talk to people, and you know what is offensive, what can hurt other people's feelings, and what have you. But the few people that I relate to and hang out with, lo and behold, they're all ex-cons, man. All people that did time with me. Those are the only people that I feel comfortable with now, Marcus, because they know me and I know them, and we have a code, man. And that code is, I don't need to do any harm to you, and I don't want you to do any harm to me, because I know that you have suffered enough. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I know that there's a whole other thing that that you might be interested in, and maybe the audience is, and how did I survive 30 years in prison as a cop? But you know, if you're interested, we can talk about that too. But the one thing that I want to say about that is that, surprisingly, whether or not the men that I was hanging around with knew that I had been a cop or not, I am here to tell you, man, that maybe the way I conducted myself, maybe the way I behaved, maybe the fact that I'm from Panama and I came to this country, I don't know, whatever it is, Marcus, you can speculate on it, but I got a pass. They said, look, man, we're just going to deal with you based on the way that you deal with us. And we're not going to make an issue about that. And initially it was rough. I'm not going to lie to you. When I first got there, you can imagine the taunts, you know, the how does it feel to be on the other side, and all these other things. But, you know, what the first penitentiary that I went to was the one in San Luis Obispo. And, you know, anybody who's done time in California knows that that's considered a soft pen. And there's a lot of people there that are there for protective custody reasons, high-profile crimes, notorious people. So even though there were people who would make comments and try to get under my skin to see if maybe they could bait me into a fight, they were reluctant to make the first move because they wanted a reason. They wanted me to give them a reason to then come at me and feel justified in doing whatever. And I received some sound advice from a young homosexual that was doing time at the time there. He said to me, look, man, everybody in this pen is here for a reason. That's because they can't walk the main line. So all you need to do is, and know is this: don't give them a reason to jump on you. They can say whatever they want to say, but ain't nobody going to lay a finger in you unless you decide that you're going to show them that you're tough. So just ignore it. Whatever it is that they're saying, you just keep going. Mind your own business.
Did you get a lot of blowback from other people that worked within the institution? You haven't been a cop previously. Did that stand out more?
No, I'm gonna say correctional officers per se never gave me no hard time, and I never really sought out the company of correctional officers. I made up my mind. I tell you, true story. When I was taken out of county jail at 0 dark 30 hours and put on that bus, and I knew this is it, man. In the county jail, of course, I was isolated. So they put me on the bus, and we're heading now to the big house. This is it. And of course, the first place that I went, they put me in the hole right away. Kept me away from the main population. And you know, I didn't know anything about the pen, so my initial reaction was like, damn, man, I'm gonna do time like this for the rest of my life. I don't know that I can do this. I didn't know that was just a temporary thing. So some months later, they put me on the bus and they sent me to San Luis Obispo. On my way to San Luis Obispo, I was in the bus with the rest of these cons that were going to different places, and I heard some Central American, South American brothers speaking Spanish, and they were in their own world, their own little culture, you know, oblivious to anything that was going on with African Americans, Caucasians, whatever. And I started listening to what was going on, and I thought to myself, wow, that's what you need to do. You're not Pablo, the police officer, the college-educated guy, no. You're none of that. You're just an immigrant from Central and South America. That's who you are. And I got off the bus with that mentality. Mm-hmm. And in San Luis Obispo, as I went around trying to adjust to prison life, I saw, you know, the Mexican brethren, the Latin American brethren playing soccer, a sport that I had played when I was growing up in Panama. And I would stop and watch them. And eventually, one of the leaders of the program came up to me and asked me if I played. I said, yeah. He said, well, let's go put on some cleats. Let's see what you got. And initially I was thinking to myself, oh shit, wait a minute. They want me to get on that pitch with cleats on, and that's green light. You know, I get close to that ball, they can come tackle me, they can do whatever they want to do, and oops, it was an accident. We didn't mean to. But as I was going through this painful experience, I was thinking to myself, you know what, my life is over, man. I don't really give a damn. Truthfully, if somebody sticks a shank in me, kills me, you know, whatever, let them do it and let it be painless. Let me just transition out of this life, because I don't know that I can do a life term in these conditions. And so I said to myself, okay, if this is the way it's going to be, then let's go for it. And I started playing, but none of that happened, Marcus. They just wanted to know if I could play, and they needed somebody to help them win some games. And I played, and they embraced me, and then that's who I became. I became Panama. I was no longer Pablo. The system had already taken my identity away from me and gave me a number instead. But with the cons, I was just Panama. That's who I was. And I played soccer.
And did that kind of carry you through that whole 30? Yeah.
I stayed with that. I eventually I was transferred out of San Luis Obispo and sent to, that's a level 3 facility. I was sent to Avenal, to a level 2 facility. And that's another story in and of itself, the reasons for that transfer. But when they put me off a transfer, I didn't contest it. I said to myself, that was in keeping with the mentality that I had at the time, that no matter what happens or where they send me, I'm not going to raise my hand or say you can't do that, or don't you know what my, you know, who I am or what my file is or anything like that. I'm just whatever. I'm just going to roll with it, and whatever my fate is, let it be. So yeah, I went to Avenal, and I sought out the Cuban brothers, the Puerto Rican brothers, the Salvadorans, the Hispanic community. And whether they knew who I was or not, it didn't make no difference to them, man. To them, I was just one of them. I was just a man doing time, a lifer. And, the first couple of years, I was convinced that somehow or another the appellate system would bail me out. And it wasn't until I got that letter, maybe 4 or 5 years later, from the appellate lawyer telling me, hey, we've exhausted your appeals, you're done. Get ready to do life. That's when I had to make an adjustment in my own mind. Like, up until that time, I hadn't bought a TV. I didn't have any property. I lived every day thinking that any moment I'm going to get a letter from the court saying, Mr. Agrio, you're going back to trial. Your whatever the issues were that were argued on appeal have been granted, and that's it. You're going to get credit for time done, whatever. I don't know, whatever. I was delusional, but I was just thinking, this isn't going to be a long-term thing. But when I got that letter, then it kind of turned a different switch on my mind. I realized that I was on my own, if I hadn't been already. And the decision that I made at that time was to try to prosecute an appeal on my own. The famous writ of habeas corpus. So I became what they call at that time a jailhouse lawyer. I had the education already. Basically, you don't really need to know much about law except how to read and write, follow some instructions. This isn't litigation for per se. This is just knowing how to fill out basic forms and saying who, what, where, and how. And that opened up a door for me that even helped me to connect more with my community, the Hispanic community, because I used my education then to be of purpose to them, to be of use to them. And so, and I didn't charge anybody for anything. I made it a point to do that. Now, other people said that they wanted to do something for me, or decided they wanted to reward me with some kindness because of some work that I'd done for them. That was cool. But my answer to anybody who came to me for help was, look, I'll do it for you, but I don't want any money. I don't want any attachments in that regard, because I can't guarantee that what I'm doing for you is going to get you the results that you're looking for. And so, and then being multicultural, you know what I'm saying? The ability to speak Spanish, to speak English, to understand all the different dialects, it helped me. It helped me to survive, to connect with people. And I cannot sit here and tell you any stories about, confrontations or fights or how I escaped this or that I tell somebody something or none of that. It's through the grace of God that I'm here, Marcus. I'm no tough guy. No, sir. I don't have any special martial arts skills. I'm not a boxer. Look, man, I just dealt with people straight up, with honesty, with integrity, stayed out of people's business, and avoided all the don'ts that people will tell you in prison. Don't borrow money from anybody.
That's right.
Don't get in drugs. Don't hang around people that are doing bad things. Because believe it or not, in the prison environment, man, not everybody is a thug. Not everybody's doing criminal things. There's people that are minding their own business, working and just doing their time. And if you, over a period of time, establish through your behavior that you're one of those guys, that you're not looking around, you don't care what anybody's doing, you're not running to the guards for every little thing, you're just doing your time. In time you will discover that people have a tendency to just look at you and say, hey, leave that dude alone, man. He's just doing his time. And so that's how I survived, man.
No, I totally understand what you're talking about, because I tell people all the time, my whole thing was being invisible in prison, and to basically, I'm there, but I'm not there. And I did the same thing. I was, a legal guy in prison, what they call a jailhouse lawyer. I help people. I had my cellmate was Mexican and he spoke Spanish, so we helped a lot of guys from Mexico and different people from South America.
Mm-hmm.
And I hung out in the law library. I spent on an average 6 hours, 8 hours a day in there,
Yeah.
and I worked out. And people would give me commissary to help them type stuff. And I was
Yeah.
like you. I said, I can't guarantee you get out of prison, but if you have, you want me to help file something for a prior, it's just like you said, fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And I would do that for guys. And that was what I did. And I did that my whole bit. That helped me find purpose and stay out the way.
Exactly.
I wasn't playing dominoes. I wasn't on the yard doing a bunch of stuff. I was oblivious to what everybody else was doing. And that kind of kept me out of the way, and it allowed me to kind of get through my time. So I fully understand, man. And you gotta find a way to deal with that reality, because that reality can be very depressing. And if you can vicariously live through a purpose, whether that's helping other people, seeing people come back and get results for different people, different things like that, it makes you feel like you still have purpose.
Yes.
Because without purpose, you lose hope.
Yes.
So you got to have purpose. So
exactly.
I fully understand, man. I mean, we all make mistakes, man. There's things that happen. I'm glad, like I robbed the bank. I'm glad it didn't go. It could have went sour. I've seen other things go different ways. I've seen people sitting in there with 30 years for a crime similar to mine, but it didn't go the same way. So I feel my bigger purpose is to be here on this platform, sharing it with people like you, telling your story, so that hopefully somebody watching this can get some type of meaning from our conversation, and it can change their life. So. I commend you on coming on the show for sharing your story, because I know it's hard to share things like that. And, knowing that you had a son, you had went through your trials and challenges dealing with this whole situation, man. And, people can't really sit here and say anything unless they've been in a situation, and every situation is different. When you're in a relationship with a woman, family members, there's all type of scenarios. I used to play it out in my mind a million times. The day I got out of bed and I did what I did and went to, got caught up, I'm like, what else could I have done? I just keep going over and over, and you go crazy.
Yeah.
You can go crazy, man. So you try, like you said, you try to think about it but not think about it, but to try to figure out what led to that maybe, and then reprogram yourself so when you do have another opportunity, you can make better choices.
Yeah. So listen, man, this is what I want to say to you, man. I've told you my story. You got a pretty good understanding of what's going on or what happened to me. But, more importantly, this is what I want the audience to take from this interview, man. Look, man, I did almost 30 years of life in prison. And I was accused of being an abuser, domestic violence, serious issue in our community. While I was in prison, it was happening. It was happening before I went to prison, and it's happening today as we sit here talking to each other. Famous people, sports stars, all kind of people get involved in situations, in relationships, and they end up making mistakes in how they deal with these situations. It was heartbreaking for me to find out that, the system dealt with me in a particular way, but the epidemic of domestic violence remains, especially in minority communities. And this is prevalent not just here in the United States, Marcus, but in Latin American countries. We come from a culture where men are taught to believe that to be a man means that you can resolve conflict with violence. That is wrong, Marcus. Wrong. That's a wrong message. And so when I got out of prison, there were a couple of things that I brought with me. Number one, that I spend a lot of time on self-reflection, trying to understand who Pablo really was. And this is what I discovered, Marcus. There wasn't a single thought in my mind that was original. Everything that I thought, believe in, everything that I worked for, goals, ambitions, dreams, these were all things that other people had put in my head that I thought were good for me and that I embraced. I'd even abandoned my spirituality, sir, because following other people. But I had an epiphany, man. And the first thing that I came to understand is that a man that is living without spirituality, without God in his life, is a dangerous man because he doesn't care about anything. And reconnecting with my Creator, man, helped me to understand a whole lot of things. Primarily, that I didn't understand or didn't know what love really is. Not only love of self, but love of others. And that's important, man. The first thing that I said to people after that terrible tragedy, Marcus, was that I loved my wife. Oh, yes, I loved her. I loved her so much. Sitting in prison, Marcus, facing that parole board, I came to the realization that, nah, man, you haven't a clue what love is. You didn't love her. The way you treated her, the way you talked about her, the way you dealt with her, there was no love. There was no compassion. You know what I'm saying? But you felt that it was convenient to be telling people that you loved her because that would help you. That was the bottom line. You was trying to escape judgment. So I come out of prison now, and I go to the VA, and I'm diagnosed with PTSD. They call it compound PTSD. I had PTSD from childhood. I developed PTSD again from being in the Marine Corps. And then I had PTSD from prison. Imagine that. So they tuned me up. I work with a therapist. I mentioned that to say, it's the therapist who encouraged me to write the book. This is how In Pursuit of Happiness came about. It was therapeutic, and more importantly, it was an open letter to my son, because I needed my son to know who I was and what had happened to me, to give him a reason to try to reconnect with me. And I'm happy to say that we have. It's not the best of relationships, Marcus. Just think about it. Think about what I did. I left him without a mother, and I left him without a father. But he's given me a chance, man, and we're working on that. It's a work in progress. But why am I here? I wrote the story not because I'm looking for fame and publicity or money, man. I wrote the story because I want to talk to people, and I want to tell them, man, that look, man, you need to pay attention to what's going on in your life. Domestic violence is not going to take care of itself through incarcerating men who get involved in these situations. There's got to be a process of education, of giving men tools, and women, because women do domestic violence too. That, you know, right now we live in a country and in a time when there's all kinds of relationships. It's not the traditional men and women anymore. But people have differences of opinions all the time, and they argue about things. What we need to help the new generation of people understand is that you don't have to resort to violence in order to fix things. If you're in a relationship with someone, man, and you find that 99% of your time is spent with this person arguing, fighting, not getting along, cussing each other out, listen, you are not in a healthy relationship. You need to stop, take stock of what's going on, and make a decision as to whether or not that relationship is worth pursuing. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what? We would probably be better apart from each other than to continue in this madness. And why am I saying this? You don't want to get to where I got to. Listen, man, it's never easy taking another person's life, another human being's life. Whether you're in the military, whether you're a police officer, or whether you're a citizen. Once you cross that threshold, Marcus, something happens to you, man, and you can never go back. That is harm that is done that is irreparable. You cannot undo that. Nothing that you say, man. Listen, God said to me, Pablo, you're a changed man. God has forgiven you. You need to forgive yourself. Well, I'm sitting here telling you, man, there are times when I'm sitting in my apartment right now, when I'm driving, when I'm listening to a song, something happens, sir, and I'm transported right back to that moment. And I think to myself, my God, what would I give right now to turn the clock back and to stop that from happening. God, the lessons that I needed to learn in life, wasn't there a better way to teach me? Wasn't there something else that could have happened? You know, and I'm saying we need to take time to invest time with the next generation of boys and girls and let them know, man, that if you don't pay attention to your feelings, if you don't raise your hand and say you need help, if you're not honest with one another about your intentions, it's going to lead to disaster, to tragedy. And once you cross that line, that feeling, that scar is going to stay with you, that trauma, for the rest of your life, sir. There is no hiding. There is no running from that. Those are your thoughts. When you get up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, that's who you see. That's what you see. That's not a comfortable place to be in, man. That's what I want to say, man. Now listen, man. There is much more to the story, man. You know, what we've talked about is just the surface. But if people are interested, man, I want to invite them to visit pabloagrio.com. Check out the book, man. Go on Amazon. Get a copy, man. It's not expensive. It's going to cost you what it costs you to buy 2 fancy cups of coffee at Starbucks. But what will you be doing when you do that? When you make that investment? You will be helping Pablo, man, and joining him in this journey of recovery, helping him to spread this message, you know, because as much as I don't mind talking to people about what I did, and I'm not running and hiding from it. Listen, anybody who wants to go on the internet can find the story and read it for themselves. You know, I'm not here to justify, rationalize, or explain away anything that I did. I'm guilty. I'm guilty, sir. And I paid my debt to society. But I want those 30 years to mean something. I want to be able to help others avoid the mistakes that I made. And I can't do that just by sitting in a room all by myself. I'm not comfortable doing this. I'm very uncomfortable right now talking to you and exposing my sins to you and to the world. But what else am I going to do? What they say, Marcus, they say when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, man. And that's all if I can touch one person, if I can reach one person, wherever they may be, that is feeling the same way I was feeling, lonely, isolated, you know, disenfranchised. Look, man, I just want to say to them, you're not alone, man. I understand. I know. You want to reach out to me? We'll talk one-on-one, in groups, whatever you want to do. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. And you don't have to experience what I experienced to learn. You can do it with a mentor like me. That's what I want to say, Marcus.
Hey, Pablo, some powerful stuff, man. Thank you for sharing your story on our channel. And I'm sure a lot of viewers will take a lot of good information from this, and you will help a lot of people, men dealing with situations, women in situations, and people out there, maybe kids who are dealing with situations themselves with parents. And you know, it takes a lot of heart to come out and actually open yourself up like this in a conversation, man, for our platform. So I thank you, and we'll have the links in the description for your book. There'd be a lot of comments, man. You know, people coming and saying stuff in the comments, and you can respond. And you know, we hope to create some dialogue and open up some opportunities for you to speak at other places, man. But
I would love that, man. I would love that. Thank you for having me, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, my man. Much respect for you and for your partner, man. And yeah, I hope some good comes of this, and we'll leave it up to God, man. He'll decide which way this goes.
Yeah, for sure. God bless, man.
God bless, man.
Big Herc getting down with Fresh Out.
Stop walking around with a crusty butt, smelly ball sack, and a funky hoo-ha. Big Herc said, wash that ass. Pick you up a t-shirt at freshoutseries.com.